And I think we're taking questions now. I can't see y'all because it's light, so if you want to just throw your question out there, that's fine too.
How old were you?
22. Just 22 years young.
Was there a type of book or a song or anything that helped you get through your journey?
The song that actually helped me get out of depression was "Rise Up" by Andrea Day. I listened to it every single morning, and I was 22, and I was also pregnant. My daughter is now 6. She is negative, living living her best life, and she knows every single lyric to that song. And the first time I played it for her, she sung it all the way through, and it was the very first time she heard it outside of my stomach. Mm-hmm.
She's not shy about questions.
No.
If you see her like videos, she has like 2 hours worth of questions. So ask what you want to know. She's happy to share.
Mm-hmm.
Did it change your spiritual growth?
I feel like I've always been close to God, but it definitely brought me closer to Him. I definitely wouldn't be here if I didn't have God. So.
Did it change your friends?
No, this is my sister with the flowers on her head. I met her in 7th grade, and we've been like this since. We didn't learn until like 9th grade. Our mothers were best friends growing up. But the day I found out, I wasn't finna tell nobody that I had just found out I was positive. I texted my daughter's dad because we were sleeping together. But I even said I wasn't gonna tell her, but then I ran out of gas. And I needed her to come get me. And I was just so spaced out that I told her. And I've always, since we've been friends, we've called each other sisters, but just the way she embraced me that day when I told her, I knew that's my sister. Yeah.
You experience rejection from your friends and family?
Friends and family, no. I will say, and I say no all the time, I have a very great support system. When you read my book, though, the person who started telling my story was one of my family members. She's still one of my favorite cousins, and we're still as close as we are because she told the truth when I asked her. But no, I think all of my family and friends love me all the same, if not more.
What was the symptom?
The only symptoms I ever had were flu-like symptoms, and that was when I very first contracted the virus. So the flu-like symptoms come within the first week to 3 weeks of you contracting the virus. I'm not really an advocate that speaks on the symptoms because there's 1 in 7 people in the world living with this virus and they don't know because they're not having symptoms. So you could be living with this virus for years, and if you're not asking for an HIV test, you're not gonna know because you're not having symptoms.
What was your process of getting support? Because I know you said that there were different like people who came to support you during like first finding out.
I love to share that my love language is physical touch. So the first few people I told, which was my best friend, my mom, and somebody else, can't even think of it. Look at that. But they all just loved on me dearly. I always say I have 2 separate support systems, my family and friends that I had before the virus, and then my Red Ribbon family, which is other people living with HIV that I get to see at least once every year, depending on what conferences and stuff I go to. So I love my family, I love my friends, but none of them are living with this virus. So sometimes I go through things that they don't understand, or I'm feeling a certain way, and they're there for me, but they don't understand the actual feelings that I'm feeling. So to have both of those support systems is amazing.
What were your next steps after you found out?
My next steps, girl, I went back to work. They told me at work. I found out at work, I went back to work. I didn't want to go home because if I went home, that meant it was true and I was going to have to deal with it. When I did go home, I was in a deep depression for like a month and a half, 2 months before I even got on the medicine. And it was really just my children that got me out of my children and God. My son was crying in my face for maybe 3 or 4 hours for something to eat, and I couldn't move, and that woke me up out of depression. And then I had the baby growing inside of me. So eventually, if I wanted to live, I was going to at least have to try the medicine to see what happens. And I was undetectable within the first 3 weeks of me taking it. So that was a switch. Popping out kids, you know, you got to do what you got to do. So I would say my first year, but like the last 6 months of my first year, I started looking into stuff once I went public. And then I was really I started going to a support group where I live, but I was the youngest person. There were no young people. There were no black people. There were no women. So there was no one in there that I could relate to. There was a bunch of gay white men. And it was a good group. I mean, it got me, you know what I'm saying? I got to see people who's been living with this virus since it first happened. So I knew then, oh, I can actually live. I can do things. But I still needed that connection of like, where's the people that look like me? I still barely see young people. It's a lot of us. They're not that open. That's fine. We're working on it. But I was able to go online and find platforms for women that look like me that share their stories and being able to connect there. And now I kind of just do the support things. I built those rooms and those spaces for people so they're not feeling left out like I did when I found out.